Alright, here we go again. It is the morning of the 7th of November, Saturday. Hold on. Weather check. Kinda cloudy. What a noisy way to start this. It's Jim. Again. So, welcome. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it. There's enough to get through that we can just jump straight in here. Nothing to complain about straight off the bat. Not until we get to New Japan Strong anyway. But we're not going to start there. We're going to start with... Ba-ba-da-ba. What have I got first? Ring of Honor! The Ring of Honor Pure Championship Tournament concludes on this show. And so too perhaps will my need to watch this program. So this is last Saturday's show, of course. It's addressed that during this pure tournament, where you aren't even allowed to throw a punch, or at least a second punch, a couple of goons ran in and broke a few tables in the last couple of weeks, so Taven and Vincent will both be fined an undisclosed amount. First match on the show, we've got Shane Taylor, Moses and Khan versus Jay and Mark Briscoe and EC3. The production on the vignette is pretty good, but it's also very standard pro wrestling. EC3 is doing a lot of talk about freedom, which may or may not be in reference to being held down in WWE, but either way, this dude is a unit. Though so is his opponent, Khan. I'm not that familiar with Moses and Khan, or even Shane Taylor, to be honest, although I've heard the name. Moses and Shane Taylor are both a little girthier, let's say, than Khan. The ads are back. My favourite, another lawyer ad on this Ring of Honor show, this time for veterans. Not to say that isn't a valid service, but I cannot properly explain how satisfyingly American these ads are to me. It's like Donald Trump being president. I don't necessarily think it's a good thing, but as an outsider, I do very much enjoy how he represents America. I don't want this to sound like an insult or like I'm having a dig or what have you. It's not meant to be. It probably is, but it's not meant to be. I didn't think of it that way. Not the time to get political. Okay, we're in amongst this. Actually, let's check. No, it's fun. Let's check. I'm pretty sure nothing would have changed. I've been checking the election results. It's been staying the same. Yeah, it's still the same. It's been the same for a few days. They got Biden within 6 of his electoral college votes. And then they just stopped. They just stopped counting. Oh, not as interesting as some fake fighting. So, well, that's all fake as well, isn't it? It's all a sham. At least these guys are upfront somewhat about how fake it is. So, yeah, this match, we've got some flips and stuff. Taylor hits a belly-to-belly pile driver on Mark Briscoe to win it. There is... Well, I mean, this was a bit of a showcase of what's to come from Ring of Honor following this tournament, I think. Which is just kind of more of the same. More of the same old Ring of Honor. It's just the same pro wrestling. It's the same American-style pro wrestling that's been happening for the last... Is 30 years going back too far? I guess this is a sped-up version of it. At least 20 years. It's, I don't know, it's not bad. And I know there's got to be some people listening to this thinking, this is what pro wrestling is. Like, what are you talking about? If you don't like this, then why are you watching it at all? But this isn't what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is an idea. Stay with me here. Pro wrestling's an idea. It's an idea that can manifest itself in many different ways. case in point, this tournament. The reason I got into this tournament in the first place is because they were doing a different style. They were doing this kind of, not shoot style, but like, just more technical. The rules matter more. They're treating it as a sport. They're treating it seriously. It's a different take because most American wrestling isn't that. It's all soap opera and rules don't matter. People hit each other with weapons that they could really kill each other with if they wanted, and they seem to be okay with killing each other, but they hold back the shots to make sure that they don't kill each other. I don't know. It's different. It's a different take on that's a different take. And 90s All Japan, there's a different style, and then there's the FMW or ECW. Actually ECW itself was a good example of it because they had the hardcore stuff that everyone remembers, but they also had like Benoit and Guerrero and Lance Storm and Chris Candido having those kind of cool technical matches, and they had like the shoot when Taz was a shooter. They had those kind of shooty matches, and they had, of course, the comedy stuff with the Tracy Smothers, R.I.P. The Italian FBI, full-blooded Italians. So, it's a real mixed bag. There's a lot of ways you can present pro wrestling, and I'm just a bit disappointed that because WWE kind of just presents it all one way, mostly, that they do it the same way. It's like, I want you to stand out. I want you to be different. But that's just me. So if that's what's making them money, then all power to them. And frankly, it's going to save me some time not having to watch this every week. So that's enough of a rant there. Gee, we got into a rant pretty early in this one, didn't we? Okay. That's the end of that one. I've lost my place, obviously, going off on that tangent. And we have Tracy Williams, running through each of his opponents and what it took to beat them, and what he learned from them all in order to beat Gresham tonight. It was a good promo from him, leading into the final coming up here. Gresham's promo was similar, but a less good version of the same message, but it's still an intriguing vignette. I'm looking forward to the match because both of these guys are good at what I was just talking about in that style that the Pure tournament started with, kind of promoted from the start. So, Ring of Honor, Pure Championship, Tournament Final, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams versus the Octopus, Jonathan Gresham. Williams has a very clearly strapped shoulder, while Gresham has attempted to hide his injured knee. The early work is slow, but really tight and technical. Each man has a rope break used, just over 5 minutes in. Commentary were talking about how Williams used all his rope breaks and Gresham used very few during the tournament, just different, I guess, kind of different psychology used by both going into their matches, because I think I pointed this out on the last episode where Coleman talked about Tracy Williams using all his rope breaks to keep his shoulder intact, I guess, really, like just that was his, he wasn't going to take any chances early on in the match, and I guess he was just kind of betting on himself to beat his opponent before being put in a position where he didn't have the ropes to save himself anymore. But Gresham's gone the other way and has barely used any rope breaks. There was a no-sell of a suplex by Williams that is like the American indie no-sell rather than the Tomohiro Ishii no-sell. So I didn't really like that. Which, by the way, Ishii's no-sell isn't even a no-sell. People say, oh, Ishii doesn't sell anything. He just delays the sell. He just like fires up and then hits something and then he collapses. Like he just kind of powered through the pain but then succumbed to it after hitting his move. Anyway, so it's about 10 minutes in when Williams hits a brainbuster, followed by his crossface. Gresham uses his second rope break. And that's, I have noted here. So he's only used 2 across the first 3 matches of the tournament, and now he's used 2 in the final. They trade pinfall attempts before the pile driver is aborted due to Williams' shoulder giving out. He tries to get through it at the second try, but Gresham uses his final rope break to stop the count. So he does hit it the second time, but Gresham uses his final rope break. So the pinfall is not counted, and Williams is still on top, obviously, senses victory, takes off his shoulder guard, but quickly regrets it as Gresham sinks in the octopus hold, targets that shoulder, forces Williams to quit, and it's kind of out of nowhere. He just leaped onto that arm and bang, pulled it back. Williams had to give in. There wasn't a big pro wrestling struggle or anything. Williams locked in the hold and Williams had to tap it. It was as quick as that. So Gresham is the new Ring of Honor Pure Champion. His partner Jay Lethal, comes out to celebrate. Gresham wins the title belt and a small silver cup as well, of course, for the tournament, in itself a prize. This is Gresham's first singles title in Ring of Honor. He's of course the tag champion with Lethal. The combatants shake hands after the bout. Lethal secures the title belt around Gresham's waist as they go off the air, with the winner raising his gold. That was Ring of Honor. Hope you liked it. You know what? I'll probably just have a quick look at what Ring of Honor does next week, and then not follow it. I don't think I need to. I'm still figuring out what this podcast is, to be honest. I think it's probably just going to be more New Japan focused. The thing is with that, they're not always consistent with content. It's just lately they have been very consistent with content. I'm going to have a busy week next week. We'll see. Speaking of New Japan, here we go. New Japan Strong. Let's get through it. So we had Logan and Sterling Regal and the DKC and Clark Connors. Sorry, I said that poorly. Logan and Sterling Regal versus the DKC and Clark Connors, a tag team match. Kozlov calls them the Logan Twins. So the first name in the first match that he had to announce, and he's already stuffed up. But Logan Regal is the one that's been wrestling by himself in the recent tournament and, all the nothing matches they've been having on this show. And he's been pretty good. So, and he's very much a tag team wrestler with his brother Sterling, who's returning, of course. So, I thought, heck, I'll check it out. I'll give him a chance, especially because this card is desperately uninspiring. So, I want him to turn it around early. I want it to be good, guys. I want it to be good. You know what? I like the guys on the other team too. The DKC, he's got a lot of energy, and Clark Connors is cool. He's got his stone face thing. I don't mind that. It's just, these matches have been... There's no reason to believe there's any consequence to these matches. I don't think anything even came of Clark Connors winning that tournament. They might make something up for him down the line, but that was a tournament and nothing happened. This is just an opening tag match. So, and it was probably taped 6 months ago. Anyway, okay. Enough negativity. I'm just a cranky old man yelling at a cloud at the moment, I think. But you look, hey, the cloud is there. It's there for me to yell at. That's what I'm going to do. If you want me to get really nitpicky, the referee's taller than everyone in this match. Okay, there was no need for that. So anyway, these Regal twins. They're either real-life twins, or they are both so default looking that they bumped into each other at a wrestling show and just decided to commit to this gimmick. Either way, they've got some really nice moves, some really neat little team tricks, and it comes down to them hitting an assisted DDT on the DKC for the pinfall victory. Don't know which one of them it was, but it doesn't matter. So after the match, presumably the twin that's been away, Sterling, is the one doing the talking, and he's talking really slowly about how they've been apart for 6 months, but they didn't miss a beat in the ring. But he's talking really slowly, like he's still thinking of what word might come next. And it's kind of like, dude, if you had 6 months off, why don't think up a promo for when you get back? Because that's all he said. And then they walked off like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. Blake Christian versus Carl Fredericks. I do not care about the Fred in the ring anyway. Blake isn't bad though. The Fred wins with a lion tamer, although he prefers to be called the Alpha Wolf. That's what he calls himself in his promo. Oh, he also calls himself Daddy in the promo. He's capable of decent promos, but this one was nothing special. And then the main event here was Tamatonga, Tangaloa, Hikuleo, and Kenta versus David Finlay, Mysterioso, Alex Zane, and PJ Black. So why is Kozlov a Bullet Club fan? Did I miss this? Was he in the Bullet Club? I don't think he ever was. I'm thinking maybe he's just... I think he's just copying the other commentators that he's heard on New Japan, because Gino's in Bullet Club. And I think, what's his name? The Jackal. What's his name? He's like one of the guys in Impact now. Like a manager or an owner or something. He's friends with Kenny Omega. Well, that was the thing. I think he was always like, oh, Kenny Omega's the best. And that was when Kenny Omega was running Bullet Club. So there's a thing of like the heel commentators being Bullet Club fans. But is Kozlov even meant to be a heel commentator? I don't think he is. I think he's just looking for inspiration from what he's seen before. And then, speaking of inspired commentary, he tells us that PJ Black is 23 years old. And Kelly's like, what are you talking about? It turns out, oh no, he read it wrong. 23 years has PJ Black been wrestling. Which is pretty different. But, anyway. I mean, how is this guy getting worse with practice? That's what I want to know. Kozlov's getting worse with practice. But I swear, I had way more patience for him when the show started. You just don't know that because I've been watching this from the beginning and not talking about it from the beginning. Because I know it's a hard job. Well, I don't know it's a hard job. I haven't done it. I'm doing this. I'm sure this isn't very good. I'm sure Kozlov, listening to this, is probably like, hey dude, you're tripping over your words all over the place. You're not very interesting, you monotone prick. Stop calling me out. I'll smash you. Yeah, you probably would, but I'm pretty far away for the moment, so... If Kozlov's listening, leave a comment. Say hi, Kozlov. Alright. What did I say about this match? Oh man, there's one more thing about Kozlov. He went on to say that Bullet Club have a monopoly on pro wrestling. So what that would mean is that Bullet Club, as an entity, not only do they dwarf New Japan Pro Wrestling as a whole, they would also do the same to WWE, to the point where both of those companies are irrelevant, basically, in order for Bullet Club to have a monopoly on pro wrestling. Am I being too... I don't think I'm being too nitpicky. I think he just says dumb shit. I'm gonna back myself here. He says dumb shit. Okay. Sorry, if you wanted me to end on something positive with this bloody show. This match ends... It's like a nothing match. It's just a match. And then it ends with one of the ugliest roll-throughs I've ever seen. And then this finish I've been hating on from the start, this gunslinger. Hikuleo botches his own ugly finisher to win the match because he's getting pushed for some reason. Oh, well, we know the reason, don't we? I mean, it's because he's tall. But still, he's just rubbish. Sorry, Hikuleo. I mean, he's new. He should be rubbish. He's new. But he's really rubbish. Now, I would, if he were listening, I would be more concerned about coming to get me. Because Kozlov needs to stand closer to the camera in order to reach Kevin Kelly's jaw. And how tall's Kevin Kelly? Probably like, 5'10". I mean, Kozlov's tiny. Not to say he couldn't beat me up, but, I might be able to just hold him back with a palm to the forehead. Whereas Hikuleo would be doing the same to me. In fact, Hikuleo could probably do his stupid finish on me, and it would probably knock me out. That's how fucking dominant he'd be over me. But yeah, I bet Mysterioso wasn't too happy about going down to it because it was terrible. And then Finlay cuts a promo on Kenta after the match because he wants his briefcase. And Finlay needs to hit the weights and get a clue because that's not happening. Tanahashi's challenging. You're not going to the Tokyo Dome, Finlay. Although it was a decent promo from Finlay. He's not bad on the stick. I think I've got to really I've got to shake this off, you know? Change direction here. Alright. We move into November. So those shows were on the 31st of October. We move into November. And the first event I witnessed was UFC on ESPN 39 at the UFC Apex Arena in Las Vegas. It wasn't a big show, so I'll just kind of run through it here. Moises versus Bobby Green. Whatever. That was a lightweight fight. Moises won. I just noticed after this one that they are back to the... I guess in Las Vegas they still have to do the backstage interviews with the... just, you know, picture-in-picture. The interviewers in a different place. Whatever. Anyway, middleweight. Kevin Holland defeated Charlie Ontiveros. Ontiveros is like a Taekwondo guy, I think, and he hit an axe kick. That was pretty cool. But then Holland did his big slam into side control, and then he just stays on top. He's peppering Ontiveros with punches and elbows. Ontiveros manages to scramble to his feet, but Holland slams him straight back down, and the impact seems to have hurt Ontiveros because there's a verbal submission right after that. Adesanya, the middleweight champion's at ringside, and Holland is just talking all sorts of smack through the cage at Adesanya, which is exactly what he should be doing if he wants that fight. You know, you gotta hype it up. This is pro wrestling, just the same. Except, you know, it's kind of up to the fighters. They're not given a script. It's kind of up to them. If they want to drum up hype and get themselves in a title picture, then they've got to beat guys and they've got to make themselves interesting. So, yeah, I mean, he went as far as calling Adesanya the ex-champ, but he knows he's still a few wins away from that fight. He's keen to fight at all weight classes and several more times in the near future. And since we're talking about him, I just heard today that he accepted a last-minute fight. Darren Till pulled out of a fight in December, I think. I guess that's not last minute, but yeah, he's going to fight again this year. If he wins, that'll be 5 fights in 2020 and 5 wins in 2020, which is a middleweight record. So, I mean, that's exactly what Dana White wants to see. And it's Jack Hermanson, who's a ranked fighter. So, if he beats Jack, like, he actually is in the mix for a title shot at that point because Adesanya's wiped out the rest of the competition. He's beaten everyone else. Jack Hermanson's ranked like 8th, I think. 7, 8, somewhere like that. And Adesanya's beaten everyone above him. Or except Cannonier. I think he's the only other guy. But yeah, I think if Holland beats Hermanson, he's either getting the next shot or he's one win away, rather. So good for him. Hard worker and fun to watch. Hard slams. There was a heavyweight bout. Greg Hardy beat Maurice Green. Hardy has a stupid hairdo and an even stupider look on his face when his name's read, trying to look tough. I mean, he is tough. He's a big bad dude, but still, I mean, his name's stupid too. The Prince of Violence or the Destruction or whatever it is. War? Prince of War? Is that what it is? So he missed weight actually for this one, but then he made it at the second attempt. Green's cool. I think I watched him on an Ultimate Fighter because he's a fun guy. He's nicknamed the Crochet Boss. He likes to crochet, the knitting. Pretty cool. So Hardy lands a couple of big right hands and follows in on the ground. Hardy eventually runs out of moves on the ground, so he decides to just let Green up. Both of them are breathing heavy, moving slow. It makes for an anticlimactic end to round one, but just shy of a minute into the second. Left jab, kind of a rising left jab, knocks Green down again, and then the punches that follow this one give Herb Dean enough to call the fight off, despite Green's protestations, and Hardy is blown up for long afterward. Like, after his promo, he's still breathing heavy. So, that's something he's got to work on. Because he's still a ways down. I think he's ranked like top 30 in the division. I don't think he's top 20. But getting into that territory, he's going to face some guys that, are going to outlast him and just pick him apart at the end of fights. The co-main was at featherweight. Bryce Mitchell beat Andre Touchy-Feely. Mitchell's got some really ugly shorts on. They're like camo. They're not camo shorts, but they're sticks and leaves and stuff. Like it's a camo type of design. So I guess he's a hunter or a Boy Scout or something. But what's interesting about it is that this is Venom. Venom has the new deal. Reebok's out, Venom's in. Venom's the manufacturers for the equipment now. And this is something we wouldn't have seen with Reebok. It was one of the big drawbacks, especially for the fans. I mean, the fighters probably cared more about the money, but the fans were really upset about some fans' personality being left behind by the different types of shorts being gone. And I like this because I understand the argument for wanting the fighters to look uniformed to some degree, to make it look professional, because with all that BS all over their shorts, all those different sponsors and stuff, it did look a bit trashy, to be honest. But this way, it's not a bunch of different sponsors. It's like, no, I've got this certain thing that I like. Like, this guy's a Boy Scout, so he wants, sticks on his shorts. Like, that's cool, and it's still got the Venom logo on it and stuff. I don't know. I'm interested to see who else takes that and runs with it. But these shorts were hideous, unfortunately. Anyway, fortunately, though, his performance was not. He's just super persistent. I like Andre a lot. He's a lot of fun to watch. But Mitchell is just persistent with takedowns, and just keeps taking him down, beating him up, and Feely lasts until the end and is in the fight, but it's a unanimous decision victory for Mitchell. The main event on this one was Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva. Silva's on his second last fight in the UFC, or on his contract for the UFC, and it's clear even before the fight that they really want him to retire, but he hasn't really been upfront with whether he is or not. And we got Hall, who is very clearly an Anderson Silva fan, and he's got two modes. He's got Crazy Freak knockout mode, and he's got Don't Do Much of Anything mode, and unfortunately in this one we got the latter. So he ends up winning with a knockout or a TKO. But I think it was the third round. It was right at the end of the third. He clips Anderson and he goes down. Hall follows up with some strong shots. Oh no, Anderson was saved by the bell for that one. It was in the fourth round. Silva rushes forward. Hall drops him again with a right hand, and then the ground and pound was enough to see it end. And then Hall just bursts into tears after the fight, telling him he loves him and he's sorry. And Silva's like, yeah, it's all right, man. He's kind of like a proud dad going, you did great. Like, don't worry about it. And Hall was just like, afterwards, well, I didn't want to hurt Silva. I respect him so much. And he probably could have thought about that before accepting the fight, because I went ahead and watched this. And then after the fight at the press conference, Dana White is not happy. He's like, first of all, about Anderson. He's like, he had a deal with Anderson that this would be his last fight, and he shouldn't have even let him fight this one, and he definitely won't be giving him another one. He hasn't got anything nice to say about Hall. He's like, he's one of the most gun-shy fighters in the UFC. So he changes the subject. He talks about Adesanya moving up to 205 to face Jan Blachowicz, which is an interesting fight. He talks about Poirier and McGregor being done, and it's at lightweight. He feels good about Khabib coming back for one more time. He says like, oh yeah, no, don't worry. Khabib's talking to his mum. So, whatever that means. And he agrees with the number one pound for pound ranking. He's asked about Jones, and I think it's interesting that he's like, look, Jones is the greatest of all time, but he's not current pound for pound king. Like, that's different. He separates those two things. He's like, currently, with the performance that we just saw from Khabib, he's number one pound for pound. When John Jones can do that for me, you know, it's kind of a what have you done for me lately, I guess. But he's respectful about it. Well, a Dana version of respectful. Okay, that's enough of a break from New Japan. We had these Power Struggle Road 2 shows. Road 2 Power Struggle. Korakuen Hall. For the first one, on the 1st of November, we had Shingo Takagi at ringside on Japanese commentary, and the first match, Yuya Uemura versus Yota Tsuji. We are still waiting on Finlay to send over the trophy for Tsuji, although the post is so slow at the moment, and I'm not sure if Japan would be going out of their way to accept anything from the United States at the moment, given how they've handled the virus situation. Uemura works hard for the Kanuki, but it's fought off. He traps him again with it later though, and goes 2 in a row with the Kanuki suplex and the bridge, winning by pinfall. Afterwards, Yota has to admit that Yuya has his number since the tour, but is determined to pull away from him in skill level. Uemura is focused on the Best of Super Juniors participation announcement. He really wants to be taking place in that, or taking part in that. He says despite the victory, he's not satisfied with his level, although a chance in the Best of Super Juniors to defeat his senpais is what he wants. And then we just have a few tag matches leading up to the Junior Heavyweight Championship main event. So Yano Goto Yoshi versus Doki, it doesn't matter. Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi. Suzuki Gun attack quickly in classic style. Yano goes for a corner pad, but so does Zack. Yano swings first and misses before Zack pulls Yano into a guillotine. Yoshi goes to war with Taichi and more than holds his own. Suzuki Gun go to work on Goto. Yano tries to intervene, but Zack heel hooks him outside the ring. Goto and Yoshi hit the GYR on Doki and win the match there. Zack and Taichi attack immediately following the bell, but Yano breaks it up, and Goto and Yoshi hit a couple of tag team moves on each of the tag champs. So the title challenge between, the challenge of Goto and Yoshi on Zack and Taichi is tomorrow night's main event. They get in each other's faces before exiting. Taichi throws the referee into the barricade before calmly collecting his things. Takagi gets up to make sure things don't escalate from there, but that's about as much of a defense as the referee's going to get. Afterwards, backstage, Zack and Taichi cut a dual language promo. Taichi says that they will end Yoshi-Hashi tomorrow night. Yano cuts an impassioned promo about corner pads. And Yoshi said he told Taichi to polish that title belt, or the title belts, up for him to take tomorrow. Next match is Great O'Khan and Will Ospreay with Bea Priestley versus Gabriel Kidd and Kazuchika Okada. I was trying my best to describe this walk that O'Khan does for his entrance. It's, I guess, kind of more... It's almost like a robotic version of a Jeff Hardy entrance. Or maybe it's the robotic version of his infamous Victory Road 2011 entrance. But I'm sure he'll figure it out, make something of it. The match, Ospreay beats up Kidd pretty quickly, but backs up just as quick when Okada finally makes a tag. I have to admit, Ospreay does a decent job of working his heel in the match and doesn't ham it up as much as I'd expect. Okada and O-Khan go pretty even in their battle, but Okada tags out. Kid can only keep his momentum going so long. Okada makes a save when things get too much. Kid tries the butterfly suplex on O-Khan, but can't get him up. A huge delayed inverted vertical suplex on Kid sets up the face grab and the Eliminator, as it's known as now. Finishing the young lion, Okada fetches the young fella, helps him out of the arena while the Empire soak in the glory of their undercard win. Backstage, Okada admits O-Khan isn't bad and that he thought less of him. He says that he is missing that Okada spice. Oh yeah. Put that in your ramen. Okada spice. That's what O-Khan's missing. Ospreay calls everyone wankers while acting like a complete wanker, which I suppose I have to admit is at least decent heel work. B's addition to this team so far is just waving at the camera like a simpleton. O-Khan keeps it short, says he will dominate. Good stuff. Okay, next one. Ibushi, Tanahashi, Honma, Kenta versus Kenta, Owens, and White. So Owens is back in Japan, and I guess he's a big shot now, having that singles main event on Strong a few weeks back. Victorious in the main event. That's right. That happened. Who did he face again? It was someone like... Well, it was one of those guys, you know. But yeah, Chase Owens, big shot. White's got a new jacket. It's a bit over the top, but I mean, it doesn't look bad for wrestling gear. Speaking of new gear, Ibushi has a briefcase now. So, a bit more protection for his contract. Jay and Tanahashi have a pose down to the silent audience. It's not much of a match. They have their quick little rivalry tussles, and before you know it, Owens drops Honma on his head and wins the match to continue his hot streak. Kenta's briefcase is a mess. It's cracked down across the center. It's got tape on it with some writing, but the writing's in Japanese, so I don't know what it says. Backstage, Tanahashi admits he hasn't been consistent, but he thinks he's still getting close to taking that contract from Kenta. Ibushi's disappointed with the loss tonight, but he looks forward to defending his contract. Owens has a neat little rhyme for us, and a Tracy Smothers quote, of which he was a fan, once again, R.I.P., Tracy Smothers. White says one way or another, he will be in the main event at the Tokyo Dome. Kenta, in English, says that he will be the first ever Japanese IWGP US champion. Co-main event here was Evil and Yujiro versus Sanada and Naito. Yujiro makes himself useful by untying the corner pad right before Naito and Sanada get flung into it. Togo involves himself as always, and Red Shoes thinks he's a tough guy official for not counting the pins, rather than disqualifying the team, or at least dismissing Togo after he's clearly interfered. Yujiro keeps biting Sanada, so Sanada bites him back. Togo creates a distraction, and Yujiro smacks Okada with his pimp cane. Pimp slap, you might say. Naito takes him out and throws Togo in. Evil attacks and Togo puts the choke cord around Naito's neck in front of the referee, which finally ends the match by disqualification. But Naito's choked beyond almost all consciousness, and then Evil throws down his lifeless body once again with the Everything is Evil STO and puts his foot on Naito's chest. So backstage it's pretty quick. Evil just says he's the one worthy of carrying the titles. Broken record at this point. Main event, IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. The champions, El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, face the challengers, Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi. Bushi and Hiromu have a mashup entrance theme. I think I've heard that before. Hiromu wears a Bushi mask to the ring as well. So they're super teamy. You know, getting along, great stuff. Suzuki-gun are second to the ring, but LIG attack first. Bushi goes for the MX on Despy, but the referee is pulled in front of him and crash lands, taking out Red Shoes. There's a doctor that checks on Red Shoes while the match continues. Desperado grabs a title belt, but Marty Asami of all people, comes out and makes the save, snatching the belt away before he can strike Bushi with it. Bushi attacks Despy, or tries to attack Despy, but is made to look a complete geek because that's counted into the numero dos, which is it's like a single leg Boston crab, but it's over the shoulder. I hate it. It might be the dumbest submission move I've ever seen. I think Lesnar used to do that, like the Brock Lock he used to call it. He did it for 10 minutes total. Probably not actually. It probably wasn't even 10 minutes total in his whole career. Hiromu makes a save on that one eventually. Bushi tries another MX, but Desperado catches him poorly. Then hits Pinche Loco on Bushi, the ultimate geek, to win the match. So backstage, Despy and just Desperado at first is talking. He gives Hiromu his own kind of chilling endorsement. He admits that they might have been close to losing, but ended up proving themselves the toughest, coolest, and smartest. Desperado calls over Takagi and says he'll beat him up before the boss does at the end of the tour, as he looks forward to Best of Super Juniors. Backstage, Hiromu credits the champions and screams at the concrete in frustration. He hasn't given up on the tag titles and says he and Bushi will continue to chase them, but he can still have his revenge in a singles match as well, and hopes to have the chance at Best of Super Juniors. Desperado and Kanemaru backstage brag about their ability as a team, and Despy predicts Hiromu and Bushi fizzling out. Then we have the other Road 2 show. There was just the two of them the next night, still in Korakuen Hall. Gabriel Kidd and Yota Tsuji open this one up. Now Yano's on the Japanese commentary team. Just mentioning that as it becomes relevant later. Kidd reverses the momentum of a sunset flip to win via pinfall here. So Tsuji's on a bit of a bad run, and he's angry about it. He's disputing the result with the referee. Kidd's telling him to piss off out of the ring. That's how it went. I mean, there's not much to note about these matches, I guess, but they're always good. There's rarely any botches between them. They're straight to the point, simple moves, easy to enjoy. But we'll get on with it. Backstage, Tsuji's not done with Kidd, but when Kidd comes in, he sounds pretty done with Tsuji. He's talking about fighting the veterans and the former champions that haven't been around lately. I think he mentioned Nagata and who else was one of them? Might have been Tenzan. Next match was Okan, Ospreay versus Uemura and Okada. So Okan's, still working on his drunken robot entrance. Priestley is still with Ospreay. Ospreay is still Ospreay. I'm really resenting that he's now heel, and I'm just a big fat mark for hating his stupid face. Well, I don't really hate him. I hate him in, a marky wrestling way. Case in point, he holds back Uemura so Okan can cheap shot him. And not to discount Uemura's talent, but is that really necessary? You can't just beat him. Yeah, I'm a huge mark. I do enjoy Yuya's fiery comeback, like the dopey mark I am. He puts Okan in the crab, but it's powered out of. Okada and Ospreay mostly stayed out of this match. It was Okan hitting his inverted suplex and then the Eliminator to win the match over Uemura. Okada doesn't like going into a big show like that, so he attacks Okan after the match, but it turns out to be a mistake. Okan reverses the money clip into into like a face grab, then Ospreay's intervention leads to another Eliminator, and obviously this time on Okada. So the bad guys stand tall at the end of this one. Backstage, Ospreay wants to now be known as Slick Billy with a Giant Willy. Ospreay says Okada's menu is a lot better than whatever spice he is using. Oh, I like that spice line from Okada. That's a decent comeback, though. And then Okan, I guess, has heard that line too. So he's like, I'm going to use your spices. They're going to be turned into soup stock for him. No, I read that wrong. He would have said me. Soup stock for me. I don't know. They were both decent. Everyone's dunking on Okada spice, which is a shame because it probably means it won't stick around. Maybe that could be a new mid-card gimmick for Okada. Comes out with a bunch of spices, like Yano. It's just like, has a little shaker, shakes it in their eyes, rolls them up. I hope not. Anyway, next one. Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo versus Kanemaru, Desperado, and Suzuki. Bushi's got this, like, Shredder mask. The, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder, bad guy. It's kind of like a mask cover hood thing that he takes off to reveal his wrestling mask. So this Hiromu and Desperado feud is heating up. So I did some cagematch.net digging and found Despi most definitely has the upper hand in these contests historically. He was Hiromu's senior when they were both in the dojo, so Despi beat Hiromu most of the time. He's got a record of 16-3 across, that's 16 wins, 3 losses across 2010 and 2011. Funnily enough, he's actually got an even better record, arguably, against the number one contender to the double championship. When Evil was a young lion, Desperado beat him 11 times and never lost. Then Desperado went to Mexico at the beginning of 2012 to become Desperado, while Hiromu stayed in New Japan to get beat up a bit longer before taking his excursion in mid-2013 after going winless in that year's Best of Super Juniors. I do love me a bit of cage match digging, but... Well, I mean, when I get time, I'll release the content that I have on the history of New Japan, because I'll do this all day. But it's hard enough keeping up with this podcast for the moment, so let's stick with the present. We got, so it was Hiromu and Despi as their little, they do the little inner battles in the tag matches, and then the other one, of course, is Shingo and Suzuki, and then Bushi and Kanemaru have their own little battle for, I don't know, who's not going to be at the bottom of the Best of Super Juniors block, or... Actually, at the very least, it'd be a battle for who's not going to take the fall in this match, because we know it's definitely going to be one of them. Shingo lines up Kanemaru for the pumping bomber, but the slimy old vet pushes the referee in the way. Shingo goes up, he continues though, he hits a super smooth pop-up DVD, followed by the pumping bomber. Kanemaru kicks out of that, but not the last of the dragon, which follows, and ends the match there. But Suzuki continues the fight straight away with a chair slap to the back, and then the Gotch style pile driver, and then a Boston Crab. This is all on Shingo, of course, which the Young Lions try to break up, but Suzuki knocks them both down, and then he locks in a single leg crab. Shingo's tapping away, but there's no one there to save him. Meanwhile, at ringside, Despi's gotten the better of Hiromu as well, so Suzuki-gun is standing tall at the end of this one. Bushi is there, standing, also. Just kind of watching. Backstage, we got the promo, Suzuki saying that he's never needed anyone's help, and he says Takagi talks like he's a high schooler, that he's never had a real job and never lived in the real world. He's been babied, he's been nursed. He says Takagi can buy the same brand of rice, but he won't have the same dish. Are these guys being underfed or something? They're all talking about food. But I know what he means. And then, Shingo comes in and says his back and legs are toast. That's the word he used. These guys are hungry. And then he starts saying no matter how broken he is, but he's interrupted. Suzuki comes in and hits him with a chair again while laughing hysterically. So it takes a moment for Shingo to recover. But he finally finishes his sentence, something like as long as he's alive, he will get to that ring and he will destroy Suzuki. Desperado thought that Kanemaru died tonight, but he managed to survive, which is good, and he's looking forward to the Best of Super Juniors. Hiromu and Bushi basically said the same thing, although they said that they saw the announcement, so I'll get to that now. We have the Best of the Super Juniors 27 fighters announced. Let's go through them. Ryusuke Taguchi, the 2012 winner, his 15th consecutive entry. We have Master Wato, that's his debut in the Best of Super Juniors. Sho, that's his 3rd straight appearance. Robbie Eagles, who debuted last year. Hiromu is the 2018 winner. I noticed on these, so we have Bushi. I noticed they have some nicknames that I hadn't noticed before. Whether that's just because they're not generally mentioned in English, or I don't know. But Jet Black Death Mask is Bushi's name apparently. El Desperado is also in the tournament. He's the Hooligan Luchador. That's pretty cool. Yoshinobu Kanemaru, he's been in for the last 4 years straight. He's called the Heel Master. I knew that one. Doki debuted last year as well. Taiji Ishimori, of course, the IWGP champ. He's in the tournament, and that is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 participants in the Best of Super Juniors. No defending champion, of course, because Will Ospreay won it last year, and he's since moved up to heavyweight. And it's a much smaller lineup as well than in recent years. Than in the recent, I think for like a decade, probably. It's been in bigger blocks, but this time it'll work as a round robin tournament. There's no blocks. It's just everyone faces each other, and the top 2-point scorers will meet each other for a second time in the final at Budokan. They also announced that while this tournament occurs in Japan, or I guess this would actually happen the day after, I think, the Super J Cup will take place in the United States. So that's just a single night, single elimination tournament, December 12th, and featuring in that is TJP, ACH, almost everyone in this is, they have J Cup debut next to their name, so ACH is J Cup debut. Leo Rush is in it, that's his J Cup debut. Chris Bay, J Cup debut. But more interestingly, the Impact Wrestling logo appears above his name, which I understand isn't TNA, but I mean, it's a different company now. But it still seems of significance that, after the, New Japan holds some grudges. They're very loyal and they're very grudgy. So, I don't know. That might mean something. We've also got the Ring of Honor guy. So Ray Horace is from Ring of Honor. That's his J Cup debut. Blake Christian, we talked about him earlier. It says GCW next to his name. Clark Connors. Oh, I was talking about this before, they actually bother mentioning that he's the Lions Break Crown winner, despite that meaning absolutely nothing. And this one does have the defending champion. Last year's winner of the J Cup was El Phantasmo. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 8th entry. So there'll be 3 matches for the winner to have on this night. Have to beat 3 guys to win the tournament. Another note to make actually about this whole little promo video is that it had English captions for all of it. I don't remember that happening ever before. Not on like the actual broadcast at least. So I hope that continues. That was good, understanding everything going on. But we'll get through the rest of this card. So Owens, White, and Kenta versus Honma, Tanahashi, and Ibushi. White and Kenta push Tsuji into the ring and make him sit down. He looks so scared. They bully him into clapping for them. The good guys don't exactly come out to save the day. They just walk out normally, as they always would. But I suppose they aren't necessarily watching the screen backstage, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And Tanahashi, in fairness, does try to negotiate Tsuji's release. Bullet Club asks Tsuji to participate in their team gesture, the Too Sweet, but he refuses, so White knees him in the gut and throws him out of the ring. They proceed to have a match. White beats Honma with the Blade Runner, and then after the match he grabs Ibushi's briefcase. He and Ibushi face off, and next to them Tanahashi and Kenta square off. Owens stares down Yano on commentary because that's a big money fight too. But then suddenly Ibushi's briefcase goes bouncing off his head, and then Kenta completely caves his briefcase in on Tanahashi's head, which distresses him greatly. He yells at Tanahashi for breaking it, and the crowd laugh. And I mean, they have a pretty dark sense of humor because Tanahashi is unconscious. Backstage, Tanahashi has recovered. He tells Kenta to get the briefcase repaired because he's taking it. Kenta says he's upset about the briefcase being broken by Tanahashi and he has to pay for it. He says breaking his briefcase is not ace behavior. Ibushi doesn't know where his briefcase is, but I thought it was left with him, so he lost it. And then I realized, I was wrong because Jay does have it. And I'm glad that's the case because I was going to blame Ibushi's forgetfulness on concussions. Another dark subject. Moving on. Evil and Yujiro versus Sanada and Naito. If you think that I accidentally am reading the notes from the night before, no, I'm not. They just put on basically all the same matches. So Yujiro distracts the referee while Evil strikes Naito with a chair. The result last night was a rare disqualification, so Evil's well aware that a result here means little if he can just weaken Naito for the next match instead. I don't know exactly what I want, so maybe I'm missing it because I don't know what to look for. But I haven't seen much in the exchanges between Sanada and Evil to show that one of them betrayed their very successful tag team in pursuit of selfish ventures. Maybe Sanada's just happy to have an excuse to be a singles wrestler as well. But I feel like something's missing when those two are in the ring together. But anyway, Togo interrupts Naito's momentum with a trip, letting Evil and Yujiro team up on him. Well, there's another former tag team not mentioned, but I guess No Limit is ancient history at this point. That's Yujiro and Naito, by the way. Especially when compared to how fresh a wound Evil's exit should be. The Pimp Cane gets slid in, but Naito disarms Yujiro only to cop an Olympic slam. It looks like Yujiro goes for a Miami Shine next, and I think Naito botched the counter, which might have been what busted his mouth, because he's bleeding fairly significantly from the mouth, although I'm sure he knows to the mix it with spit trick to make it look worse. Naito pins Yujiro soon after all of this anyway with the Destino. The winning team stay long after the bell to celebrate the victory. Backstage, Naito said he read in the Tokyo Sports Evil wants to face Jay White at Wrestle Kingdom, and then said it seemed like no one cared. Naito wonders if things are going the way Evil wants them to, and then he says his mouth's hurting and he might go to the hospital. Alright, so the main event of this show was for the IWGP Tag Team Championship, Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto versus Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi. That's the entrance music, that little scat there for you. Entrance music for the Tag Team Championships. Like a little presentation video they do. So, yeah, the match moseys along without anything particularly noteworthy until there's a really nice one. A super sweet tornado DDT off the middle rope. What do they call those again? Not springboard, but kind of like, he Sabre ran up the turnbuckle, does his spinning DDT, and then he flows straight over into a triangle, and he just locks it straight in. This is on Goto. Taichi kicks Goto in the head while he's in the triangle, so Zack really should be able to finish the triangle at this point, but somehow doesn't. For entertainment purposes, I suppose. Goto and Yoshi hit one of their double team moves on Taichi, but he kicks out. The fans try really hard to stay energized. Goto fires up out of a high angle back suplex and hits a lariat, and that wakes the fans up a bit. Yoshi sends Taichi to sleep with a sleeper, but as soon as he releases it to attempt karma, Taichi palms away the referee, kicks Yoshi in the nads before a Taichi clutch goes close to finishing the match, but Yoshi kicks out. It looks like Yoshi's closing in on the finish later. He's going for karma again, but it's a neat spin and a timely assist from Sabre that results in the Zack Mephisto. Taichi landing that on Yoshi winning the match and retaining the titles for Dangerous Tekkers. And man, before anyone can celebrate, Yano runs out from behind the commentary table and removes the turnbuckle pads in each corner. More concerned with them than his Chaos teammates, by the way. He takes the mic and apologizes for interrupting, but he has a lot to say. He says Zack keeps putting the pads back on the turnbuckles after he keeps taking them off, and it's been really annoying. I doubt Zack's following this, because obviously Yano's speaking in Japanese, but Yano proposes a match without corner pads. The crowd somehow managed to roll their eyes through clapping. I know that's what they were doing with their claps. I can read them at this point. Zack throws Yano into the now padless corner, so Yano's hurt his back. He runs away. Zack starts throwing the pads at him. And I guess he's figured out what the stipulation is, somewhat at least, so he accepts the match. That's just a stupid segment. It's especially stupid segment to do after a main event for a championship, even if it is. I mean, I don't know. The tag titles are kind of a deal. I mean, Yoshihashi is a big deal, and he's challenging for him. Anyway, Taichi takes the mic and dismisses Yano, says the spotlight belongs to Dangerous Tekkers. Yano yells out from backstage, and the crowd laugh. The audio is not really picked up for the broadcast, but it appears he yells a few times, so Zack gets pissed off and runs back there to sort him out. Taichi says that they will crush the Tag League competition. Backstage, Goto and Yoshi are obviously disappointed, but they're not discouraged. They want to enter the World Tag League for their revenge. Yano explains the rules of the match, so it's actually who can remove all of the corner pads first. Like those corner... Is it called a Four Corners match? The one when they're chained together, usually. In the American version. New Japan used to do these... what did they call them? They used to call them death matches when they were chained together. Chained, like, they'd have a strap around one wrist of one fighter and a strap around the wrist of another fighter connected by a chain, and what's his name? That gave the Iron Glove to Taichi. He used to do them all the time. What else have we got here? So, I don't think they'll be chained up for this match, but I think that's what he said. You have to take off the turnbuckle pads, and I guess it's I don't know, are they going to put him back on each time someone fails to get 4 in a row? I don't know how that's going to work, but it sounds stupid. But I'll watch it, whatever. Something different, might be interesting. Where was he up to? So, then Taichi and Zack go back there and they're talking about their big plans. They talk about Suzuki Gun's success in general. They say they'll win the Tag League and just take the Tokyo Dome shows off and watch all the crappy matches on TV while drinking. And then Taichi asks Zack if they're going for drinks. Zack asked if he's driving, and Taichi laughs and just says, it doesn't matter. So there's a heel for you, a drink driver. No one likes a drink driver. Zack stays behind to make fun of how stupid the stipulation is and says it doesn't matter anyway, he'll tap Yano out in 60 seconds. Well, it will matter if that doesn't win the match. But something gives me the feeling that Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't give a damn about this King of Pro Wrestling title. Which, makes it... I'm sure Okada's so proud of it since he introduced it and put Yano over for it. But, okay, that was it. That was the end of that show. We'll do a little preview of the pay-per-view tonight then. It's not a pay-per-view. Might be. I don't think it is. The Power Struggle show. So we've got the no corner pads match for the King of Pro Wrestling 2020 title. Yano versus Zack Sabre Jr. It'll be what it'll be. We've got the Never Openweight Championship. Minoru Suzuki defending against Shingo Takagi. That will be fantastic. Hard hitting. Good stuff. My favorite. Kazuchika Okada and Great-O-Khan. So this is interesting for storyline purposes, just because well, leading up to it, Okan has won both the Road to tag matches between them, albeit both times over the Young Lions, and he stood tall over Okada at the last show, on this show, and the show we just went over, and yeah, Okada's really kind of yet to get the better of him at all, really, since he showed back up with this gimmick. So it's a big night for Okan. It's the biggest match of Oka's life. I mean, if you want to ever have if you want to be at anywhere near the top of the card, you want to be able to have a better than good match with Okada. So there's a bit of pressure on him here, I think. And it'll also be the first indication of Okan's power level, if you will. You know, how far he can take it to Okada. So there's that one. There's the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship right to challenge contract. Kenta defending against Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the other contract for the double championship, Kota Ibushi defending against Jay White. So the build to both of these is kind of similar. Both of the challengers defeated the briefcase holders in the G1, and then on the last show we just gone, both babyfaces were smashed in the head with a briefcase just a few days out from this. So we'll see how that affects them. And then, of course, finally the main event, IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Double Championship, Tetsuya Naito defending against Evil. So the history between these guys is all pretty recent. Evil beat Naito in the G1, but he lost the titles to him in August at Jingu Stadium. And Evil only defended those titles once against Hiromu after winning them from Naito in July, which was a big surprise. And then the only other match between them ever, as far as I know, was the G1 in 2016 when Naito defeated Evil. So overall they're 2-2 going into this match in singles competition. And I guess I'm sure Ibushi and Jay White's the co-main here, so I suppose a big part of this event is that these last two matches likely decide who main events the January 4th Tokyo Dome show. Because I don't think they would I don't know, I guess they could have a December event. But this is going to take, the tour about to start, Best of Super Juniors and Tag League, that's going to take them to mid-December. So I think this is it. I think whoever wins these matches is going to the Tokyo Dome show. I don't expect anything to change though. I think it's going to be Naito and Ibushi, which is always a great match, a crazy match, a scary match. But I'm happy with that. They haven't done it in a little while. It was getting old. I think in 2019 they did it a fair few times, and their necks needed a rest. But it's fresh enough now. Ibushi's in a kind of a new place, I guess. Just that obviously he won the G1 last year as well, but now we actually believe he might do it. So he's just, yeah. I can't imagine they would have him, Ibushi drop the contract just because he's been in also ran so many times now. It might be a step too far if he were to not get there again. But I do think they have to do it at some point. They can't just have the briefcase winner always defend and always go to the Tokyo Dome. You got to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, that's tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I'll try and watch it live. And we've broken an hour. There's not much else I was gonna talk about. There was a cool AEW promo I saw. Kingston and Moxley. I like those guys, particularly Kingston. Great promo. Probably one of the top 3 in the business, in English anyway, for mine. So yeah, that was kind of cool. That was all I watched, so I just found a clip of it because I heard it was good. I think they have a pay-per-view tomorrow as well. The other thing I was going to mention though was this Vince McMahon documentary. This is going to be pretty interesting because it's the creator of The Last Dance, Michael Jordan documentary series, which I also enjoyed. And this one's going to be a bit closer to home. I do like basketball, but I don't follow it closely. And I wasn't following it at the time of Jordan. I was very aware of him, but that wasn't on TV in my part of the world. So yeah, this is going to be cool. I mean, there's a lot to cover. There's his young life. I remember he's had stories of getting beat up as a kid and kind of having a bit of a tough childhood, and then he's just barely a teenager. I think it was only 12 or something when he started working for his dad, and he just enters this crazy business of pro wrestling, and then working his way up as a commentator, taking over the business, destroying the territories, his battles with the commissions, the Jim Crockett Promotions war, the steroid trial, business drying up as a result of that. There's the WCW war, and with Turner, the Attitude Era, of course, at the time, and then maybe most interesting to me would actually be the beginning of the decline, following the Attitude Era. It's been a fairly steady decline in popularity, and I wonder how that's going to be addressed. And then, of course, we've got Benoit murders, the drug policy, the PG stuff, the continued decline. AEW, I don't know if they would mention anything about that, but yeah, I don't know. I guess that's only kind of just started, or I don't know how far along it is, but that'll be cool. That'll be interesting. Vince McMahon's a very interesting character, whatever you think of WWE. So there's that, and this is this. I think this is done. A fair go. We'll get back at it next week. So until then, have a good one.